Hey Skyfarers, and welcome to Aethercast, the Kharadron Overlords podcast, where today on the show we're going to be talking to Patrick Carter about his recent experiences at the Goldcon tournament in Australia, where he comes second. But before we get into his list and his games, let's meet the panel for tonight's show, get to know Patrick a little bit better, and have a little chat about the news. So we have our ever faithful uniter of Duardin, our very own Grombrindal, Duardin Max Bowman.
Hi guys.
And you know him, you love him. He's our thunderer from Down Under, Gunnery Sergeant Alexander Cron.
Hey, evening, morning, whatever.
Wherever you are. And custodian for our Sky Wardens, and Lord Magnate of Barak Zon at the moment. Adeptus
Exactly.
Masters.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
And last but not least, because he's the man of the hour and pilot of our brigade, is that the right word, of gun haulers for tonight's fleet, Patrick Carter.
I thought I'd get a better title than that. I mean,
Well, you had 3 gun haulers in your list, so that's like, well, I'll do something related to that. I'd like try and tie it in somehow.
Yeah. I just thought, just something cool, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. That's cool. Welcome everybody. How are we?
We're all good. Thank you. And how are you?
Yeah, good. Very good.
Thank you for coming on the show.
I'm not going to lie. Literally 5 minutes ago, I was asleep. So this is, and I'm kind of glad there isn't a camera on me because at the moment I'm in my pajamas. So this is going to be interesting. So, yeah.
That's fine. It's like Cron is always like half awake every time.
Yeah.
takes me a bit to get into it. It's
Yeah,
fine.
when you sit at 7 in the morning, I was like, yeah, it's all right. That's fine.
We could have delayed it. We could have done it a couple of hours later. Oh well. So before we talk about the news, Patrick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself since you haven't been on the show before? How long have you playing Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, KO, that sort of thing?
Well, for Age of Sigmar, I've probably been playing for about 3 or 4 years now for Sigmar. But before I used to play Sigmar, I played Warhammer 40k for like 20-something years. But
And you finished the light.
Sorry?
What army did you play?
In 40k?
Yeah.
All of it. Like I literally had like every sub faction, everything else in 40k. I played all of it. I used to play it very competitively. I even went to ETC for 40k, representing Australia.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I represented Queensland multiple times in ATC, which for those outside of Australia, for 40k anyway, it was the same thing as ETC. It was just the states within Australia and New Zealand. So that was pretty good. But then I got sick and tired of 40k, and basically I didn't like 8th edition, and I really don't like 9th edition. So I went and started playing Sigmar, and Kharadron Overlords was the first army I picked.
Cool.
It is just the best looking army, I think, by far.
It's basically your only army.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I just went straight to KO and started playing them. I played them when their original book came out, like when they first dropped, and I literally started playing them just before they changed the Grundstock mortars. So you couldn't get.
You survived.
You survived.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So just before they got the I could actually run 10 mortars and all that sort of stuff, they changed it. So I started playing them then, and I sort of haven't turned back since. So yeah, I had to play them when they were at their worst, which was interesting, but I still loved it. So
And you have other armies besides KO?
Yeah. Basically, I've got them, Fire Slayers, Stormcast, and the Whole of Destruction.
Cool.
The only thing I'm missing is the Sons of Behemoth, but they can wait. They can wait. But yeah,
cool.
That's what I've got. So yeah.
So just to clarify, no elf armies.
No, fuck no.
That's
I hate
awesome.
I like
every single fucking time GW decides to do something with elves, it always just ends up being the most broken shit in the fucking face of the planet, and I hate it. So they just like, and it's just everything they do with elves. It's just.
I'll just see myself out then. Okay.
Yeah.
See you guys.
You should.
Yeah, honestly, you fucking should. You should see yourself out.
We found a new Australian.
Yeah. So it's just. Ever since then, I just hate elves. I fucking hate them so much. Nothing
You've
makes
come
me
to the right
happy.
place.
Yeah, nothing makes me happier than wiping out an elf army. So, but yeah. Other than that, just been going around playing KO and stuff like that. I didn't play them when they got re-released from the new battle time, because at that stage everybody was jumping on board. And I was just getting sick and tired of everyone jumping on my ship, type of stuff. So I switched to Gloomspite there for a while, and now I'm back. Now that everyone's sort of fucked off and picked another, the next shiny army, I've jumped back on the KO boat. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
hit the ground running by the looks of it.
There. Trust me, when you play them under the old tome and then you play them now, it's just like chalk and cheese, and it's just. It makes things so much easier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the Archnaut gun lines? I know I wanted to play Kharadron Overlords and never use any of the boats. That was my favorite part.
Well, actually, I used all the boats under the old battle tome: ironclads, frigates, and gun haulers.
Even the gun hauler? Wow.
Because they were the only thing in the old battle tome that could actually take a punch. Because of the number of wounds they had, everything else just went down like a bit of paper. So I needed a couple of things to be able to at least take a punch for longer than a second. So that's why I took boats, and I basically used them as living shields for my actual other units. Yeah. So I still miss 360 point ironclads. I'm not going to lie. That was pretty dope, and I'm kind of hoping that comes back, but I don't think so.
I kind of miss ironclads buffing the fleet, having all those signal flags and doing stuff. That was
flagship
cool.
Special rule. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Very charismatic.
It's actually something that gave us to do in the hero phase, rather than just stand there and put our thumbs and just go, "Sweet man, all right."
You still use the chemist buff.
Hero phase, Warp Lightning Vortex.
What do you mean? You're not moving around in the hero phase.
Yeah. So, other than that, that's basically all. And lately with KO, all I've been doing is just building different types of lists and playing them. So, because I got all these different lists for all the fleets and all that sort of stuff. So it's good.
Cool.
Right.
Cool. So we'll talk about some of those lists in a minute and the one you took to the tournament. But before we do, let's have a little chat about the news. So for once, I've actually prepared some stuff. So let's talk about the FAQ.
Oh yeah, the long-awaited FAQ finally came out.
The great,
and it delivered by not delivering.
That was great for KO.
You remember when we did the prediction show and there was one viewer who got most points in the end in the quiz because he just chose all the current point values?
Yeah, I think that might be Stephen.
Stephen?
Yeah,
Stephen. well done. You won Age of Sigmar.
He was in the chat.
You knew it.
I don't know if he still is because we were late. So he might be waiting for us to start. But
and I mean, before Christmas, I predicted, well, maybe we won't get an FAQ this year. Maybe we won't. Guess what? We didn't get any. It's just.
I kind of knew that was. I kind of thought that was going to happen though. That we weren't going to get anything from the FAQ, as far as things go. So,
yeah, I
thought for sure we would get the nerf bat would come out and just hit KO.
I don't think they're going to do that anymore. I don't think GW is going to double tear jerk reaction to armies anymore. They kind of stopped doing it when it came to Feck and Slaanesh. Once they dropped those two armies and basically ripped the asshole out of them to, bring them all the way back, I don't think GW is going to go down the path of extreme knee-jerk reactions into armies anymore, because they had a chance to do that before with Seraphon, and all they did was tap up the
salamanders
by a few points. They didn't do anything else. And if you were half smart and you looked at it, you knew Croak had to go up by heaps. Like, you knew it. Everybody did.
There's things like, this is a whole other discussion, but other armies, they were struggling for 2 years and they still didn't do anything. So,
well, that's why I think they did the Broken Realms, because now they're just going to re-release new scrolls, new everything for factions now. So I wasn't expecting much from the FAQ, because it's GW, they want you to pay for it. So if you want all these new rules, new abilities, you're going to have to pay for it for Broken Realms. Like, now that they're releasing Techless, Night Haunt and all that stuff are going to basically pretty much be rewritten, or if not to the minimum, they're going to get new scrolls. So they're
I don't know. I think Night Haunt and Feck and those people are just going to get like a battalion, and that's it.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Because half of the book is like 12 Lumineth units, and that's
but they might get
that's
another
already 12 War Scroll cards. That's like already this much of a book.
I mean, Flashy Records, Nurgle might get a new tome soon with the Techless book, just like Daughters of Khaine and Slaanesh are going to get theirs.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're lucky, they'll be usable in games, unlike the Cities faction that still is unplayable.
Oh dear.
Bloody hell, why didn't they FAQ that?
Is it elves?
Idolaters.
Is it elves?
It's Dark Elves.
It's the Dark Elf one.
We don't talk about Dark Elf
when you select the city, you lose the ability to make all your units have the city keyword, and you can't take any artifacts, you can't take any spells, you can't take any command type. What's the point?
My saying, what's the point in elf armies?
Just don't have
What's
elves.
the point?
You don't have that
You
problem.
can
Why are we
run
wasting time talking about elves?
Exactly. Let's not talk about elves. Lee, take us through the FAQ.
Right, so vent plates, they got an errata to work how everyone thought they probably should have worked, so that it works just for the one phase now. For the super
shame. I was at minus 200 already.
That's been fixed. Then they answered a question about whether you can you go into the garrison of a ship if the ship is within 3 inches of an enemy unit, and the answer is no, which I thought was already kind of covered by the garrison rules.
Yeah.
I don't think that needed answering. And then there's this bottom one that's kind of had the most discussion, because it says, in a Barak Zilfin army, can an Archanaut company unit from the Iron Sky Attack Squadron battalion leave the garrison of an Archanaut frigate using the Bold Privateer's ability after that Archanaut frigate has been set up using the Fly High ability, and there's always a breeze if you look for it, footnote? And the answer is no. So they've listed about 6 million different things there. And then which can actually be used in slightly different combinations as well. And they just said no. So I think we kind of just have to take it for what it's literally saying, which in that one scenario, you can't do it. It's not reading to it any precedence for other things.
Because we already knew that you cannot get out after Fly High with that battalion. Exactly. It doesn't matter if you do it in hero phase or not. But if you start inside the ship,
it does matter.
Always fly high and then disembark if you use the hero phase. I mean, that's what I do with my Thunders and the Ironclad. That's the whole trick of the Kron deploy and destroy. So,
to answer the question in the chat, they are talking about in the hero phase. They're basically saying you can't get out of the frigates in the hero phase with that battalion.
If you use that specific battalion ability. But in every other instance, you can still get out in the hero phase.
No, you can't.
Well,
no, you could.
Some rules specifically says the movement phase, so you can.
You could do move, get out.
Yeah, it seems like a silly FAQ, to be honest, because does it really matter if 10 Arcanauts get out of in the hero phase? Like, are you going to absolutely rickroll people into submission with 10 Arcanauts? I don't understand.
Well, then they move 4 inches and then they charge 3d6. So I think that's an OP combination that they needed.
Yeah, exactly. With 10 Arcanauts, I don't understand why that's such a bad thing to say no to. But anyway,
who knows? A very specific question.
I think the reason they said no is because it shouldn't work from a rules perspective, because you're getting a free movement. Like, and the garrison rule says you can't get out in the hero phase. It says there's no reason for them to answer it as a yes. What would be nicer if they listed like 4 or 5 different questions, like can you get out after fly high? No. Can you get out in the hero phase? No. That sort of thing, rather than.
But the battalion rules already state that you cannot get out. It only allows you to get out after the move. That's the only benefit that battalion gives you.
But people kept asking, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, okay.
And that's the whole point. It's an FAQ. The F stands for frequent. So people kept asking it a lot. So
frequently asked stupid questions.
Yes.
Well, about the points, maybe that's already a bit of news. We have seen today the war scroll for the new Underworlds warband, the something Ravagers, a Chaos warband. And we can see a points value, and the points value is 125 points. It is the first instance we have ever seen in Age of Sigmar with a 5-point step. Either it's a misprint, totally possible for GW. I mean, they printed the Nighthaunt points from 2017 in the FAQ or something. So
they have fixed that now, though.
Okay. Or they are planning to better balance the game and move everything to like a 5-point step, which for me explains a little bit why they said, okay, we're not going to do points now because we are already delayed on 2 battle tomes, the Slaanesh and the Daughters of Khaine, plus Techless, which probably should have, without COVID, come out last year. And those points are already in there with 10 points iteration. So we don't want to change like half of it and then rechange it back. So we're just going to not change anything and do it in summer. Maybe it's an explanation. It still doesn't explain why the communication was just bad.
Like, and we might see like the 125 or 35 in the next 2 battle tomes, Slaanesh and Daughters of Khaine.
Maybe, but then I don't know. It was bad, like saying, "Oh yeah, don't worry, you'll get the biggest FAQ ever. Just wait another month." Yeah, screw you too. Honestly.
Yeah. One of the things I'm really disappointed about is they haven't updated the base size chart. It's made one change to it, which was to
Nathan, we love you.
They made a change to the Orc's Mighty Mushroom, which is incorrect. Or
the problem is the mushroom is on 65 mil, but they don't sell 65 mil bases. So the closest thing they said is 60 mil. Before it was 50, which was wrong. But if you take it seriously, like you need to shave off 5 millimeters from your model now.
But then other bases, other ender spells, it says something like custom base or something.
That's because the endless spell comes with a base, like it's part of the model.
Yeah.
For example, like the runic firewall from Fireslays, the base is part of the model. So there's no exact basing for that. You just use the model.
But from a KO perspective, they didn't add like the Endra Master of Dirigible Suit, and they haven't updated it to say Endra Master of Endrin Harness.
And I think on their homepage, like on the store, it still says 50 millimeters.
Yeah. So if you're listening, it's a 40 mil base.
Yeah, it's the one that he comes with.
Yes, I will die on that hill. Although, we've just seen with the Orc's Mighty Mushroom, they don't like necessarily to stick to what it comes with in the box. So
I don't know. They might fix that.
Yeah, so it's just a shame. That's just laziness, like not to update the base size chart.
Yeah, Billy, we're disappointed. Billy the intern.
But I guess, I mean, they haven't got a massive incentive to do it because the only people that are really useful for is really old armies, which are obviously already on there, or people doing conversions and like kit batches and stuff, which they want people to buy the model rather than do that. So.
Yeah. Well, that being said, when I had my Fire Slayer army, I got a whole pack of bases of 25s for my Hearthguard, and I was like, "How the fuck am I supposed to work with this?"
I was
like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'll use 25s if you want me to," but I mean, I don't think that's people are going to appreciate that very much. But anyway,
a lot of units could be made a lot better by dropping a base size.
Just a bit.
I'm not sure. Do you say that's Hearthguard Berserkers?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, a
Yeah, I
box
don't
of
think
hard
they need to drop down.
You could attack from 3 ranks with 25. That's awesome.
Exactly. That was the best. I was like, I'll take it if I could use it, but I don't think it's going to be possible. But anyway.
Yeah, so that's a shame. But moving on from the lack of FAQ news and sort of disappointing news to something a little bit more exciting. There's a new KO model coming.
It seems so.
Yep, looks like it.
It looks dope.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this game.
Scope on his Skyhook.
Yeah, so there's a few things about him. Like the Skyhook is definitely not like a normal Skyhook, like because it's got a scope. It's kind of like a cross between an Archanaut one and then like a Sky Warden or Endrumigger one. But then it's got things like the scope. It's got like a little crank handle here, which you can't really see the red on red very well there, but oh well.
Yeah. I just like it that he looks like an actual pirate because he's wearing a coat and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. He has a coat. He has an Archanaut saber, I think, on his side. Yeah. He has the typical Duardin ancestor god belt.
Yeah,
they all have, like the Dispossessed have, the KO still have that. That's great.
He looks like he's got a chemist backpack too.
Yeah, that scale he has on his back, we were theorizing a bit in the chat before what it is, because there's things on both sides. My personal theory is it's something to detect the presence of ghosts or like bad spirits or vampires or something, something like that. And he will just scope the shit out of vampires with that hook.
Mm-hmm. It's very unique. It's not like any other backpack like KO models have got at the moment. So, and it's this weird, like, again, I'm drawing red on red, so you can't see, but like this round bit at the top here is very strange.
Yeah, you can see it on the other picture, like behind his head. So it's some part of the backpack. It'll be interesting to see. He's one of 8 heroes for the good guys. We've seen a couple of others. So yeah, I'm excited. Not just for that model, but the game looks super dope.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, very dark, very horror vampire thing. I'm not sure if it's child suited, but
the first models were teased are just awesome looking. Yeah, that Witch Hunter, awesome.
I think
talking about Witch Hunter. Oh no, I've misplaced it. I've got I just acquired the Grombrindal Witch Hunter model from 2014. There's like the White Dwarf Witch Hunter model with stakes and a hammer. I'm gonna make him the one in the game. But I don't have it here. I put it away.
Yeah. A couple of people in the chat saying it's basically Ghostbusters.
It is. He is so Ghostbusters. He needs a chemist, Hoover thing to suck in ghosts and stuff.
Or like a trap.
Yeah.
But no, it's cool.
I have a question. Yeah, I have a question. Because it's placed in Sigmar now, you wouldn't use a cross. What would you use to kill, like to ward a vampire away? Would you use like something like Galmaraz or something?
Like the comet thing, like the twin-tailed comet icon.
You can see the icon on the picture actually. On the whatever that guy is. I think it's a lady, isn't it? Like a woman.
It'd be
in the bigger picture. Yeah, we'll see. Very, very exciting.
Like, because KO wouldn't use a cross anyway, or like.
No, they wouldn't. But I'm just
like, I don't believe in you. You don't exist scientifically.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in Tim until he gets a sword in the back, and he's like, "Okay, I believe in you now. This is fine."
Yeah, they believe in stakes.
Yeah.
So yeah, great, cool.
It'd be nice to see if we get a wall scroll for him as well. Like if he.
I believe so. The old ones did have. I mean, the Priest Excelsior, the Doomseeker for Fire Slayers, the Chaos people. Yeah. The Dark Oath.
Well, I wonder if you could modify it because in the battle tone they discuss about KO having their specific like modified Thunderers that can fight Nighthorn.
The Black Thunderers, that would be cool.
E.g. the Ghostbusters. Because they are 100% Ghostbusters. In my eyes, I can't see them. They are the Mortal Realms version of Ghostbusters, basically. I just wonder if they do something for KO for that with vampires. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, like a whole unit. Because this part of his backpack is kind of more like the power pack you get on like a Thunderer or like a Sky Brigade. Like the Arcanauts have a much smaller backpack,
Yeah.
so it could be a Thunderer.
Yeah, it's the classic like Endrin light ether thing they all have on the back.
Yeah. The Arcanauts don't.
I think it's what powers his weapons. Yeah.
Cool. But
Yeah.
look forward to that. So,
Looking forward.
let's move on to the last bit of news, which is a big explosion of text. I think I'll let you explain, Max.
Okay, so
Okay.
put on your tinfoil hats. Last White Dwarf. This is the White Dwarf from January. At the end, we have a short story. And before that, we have an interview with the author, Mr. David Geimer. I hope I'm pronouncing this correct. Who is the author of the newest Gotrek books. So he knows his dwarves. And he says, we're going to see a series of 6 short stories across the next 6 issues of White Dwarf, where there's a mystical dwarf wanderer with white beard and white hair helping out different Duardin factions. Not just KO, not just Fireslayers, but Fireslayers, KO, Dispossessed, Ironwood Arsenal, someone who sounds much like Gotrek, so all the Duardin people running around the Mortal Realms, which I was super excited about this. I'm a big Dwarf fan, as you might know if you follow the show. So I read that story. The story, he's visiting Fireslayers. He looks like a Fireslayer, but just with white hair, which is very odd, and he stands out immediately. And he helps them on their adventure. I'm not going to spoil the story for you. But what got me excited, he sings a little song, which you can see here on the most left.
Are you going to sing it for us, Max?
No, I'm not going to sing it. And I tried to do a figurative translation. My Kazalit is not fluent, but it's more or less what it says is that the Duardin Empire was struck by disaster. The Kara's Anchor is the Dwarf Empire from also what they called in Warhammer Fantasy, and the Kazakhendrum is what they call now in Age of Sigmar the Age of Chaos. So when everything went to shit. In Warhammer Fantasy, it was the same name for the end times. Basically the same story, everything goes bad. And it talks about everything's lost, the empire is destroyed, the mine people, so probably the dispossessed, they go to Azir beside someone like Great Smithlow, Great God. I'm not quite sure about the translation. Could be Sigmar. I think it's Sigmar that he went. They go with Sigmar to Azir. The Kharadron obviously go to the skies. The Drengizar, those are the Fireslayers. They go to their gold, their special gold, the Urgold. And then it says, the great unification of the Duardin race, that is the Duardrazal. And this is also featured in the newest Fireslayer tome. They speak about that as well, which is the great unification of the Duardin race. And this is very, very interesting because it says when this happens, the empire will be restored. Now, the guy singing this is, we believe, Grombrindal, a famous hero from the Warhammer Fantasy. He also has a model and had a war scroll for Age of Sigmar. He's like a legendary dwarf hero. Some say he's the first High King reincarnated. Some say he is the avatar of Grogny. Some say he's the son of Grogny. It's not quite clear who he is. But it's very interesting for me to see that we have, these are 10 pages of story in White Dwarf, very prominent, 6 issues, all about dwarfs, or Duardin, as they're called now. That's a lot of attention. He's singing about unifying dwarf races. That's, that gets me going. That's all down my alley. And then we have some little snippets from the story, because he insists that oaths and vengeance, and that is very important to him. And the main theme for dwarves has always been grudges. Everything's about grudges. In Kharadron, they all have grudges. We have a grudge command traits. We have grudge Endrin works. Everything's about grudges. The Fireslayer is the same. So this is the main theme, and it seems very important to him. And he also talks about Grimnir, and that he he cannot like go out as Grimnir. He cannot just disappear and explode into gold, fighting on a realm beast. So we think he's a main person to come back. He is. I looked this up. He is the model in Warhammer, like the character that has the most models made.
That's true.
There are, I think, so many Grombrindal models. Obviously, because in White Dwarf every year you used to get like a special edition one. There's one with power armor. There's ones with he plays blood blow. There's one vampire hunter. There's all different ones, but he is the single model with the most, the single character with most models in the game, forever. So that's cool. Why not have another one? Cool.
You say that, but will it just be one? Could
yeah,
it be more?
Who knows? Maybe we get 3 different ones. Because what he does also to each traveler, to each person in need, he appears as someone different.
And he doesn't teleport.
He does not teleport. Someone keeps insisting that he does. He does not. That's a lie. Don't believe him. He just vanishes. He uses disguise and he disappears.
Which is, if that's not a teleport, then
no, he's not teleporting. He's not flying high. The FAQ stated he cannot fly high. So, but what is interesting that this directly relates to a story in the Fireslayer book, which is not that old. It's from 2019, where they also talk about rumors of Grugnis. He's up to something. The god, he's doing something. He tries to reunite the Duardin races. So I'm excited. Maybe we see a Broken Realms Grombrindal book down the line, not imminent, not in the near future. Maybe Grogny. I'm not sure if he will appear because he's like a distant god. I'm not sure if he will play a main role.
But that sub-story about Dwarven unification has been going on for some time. Mm-hmm. So they're working on it, and it's got to lead to something. Maybe a new faction, like a unified Duardin faction. That could be something. I'm just not sure that a full merger of Fireslayers, KO, and Dispossessed would be that interesting to me, honestly.
I don't think it would be. Just from a GW financial perspective,
why would they want to sell you new stuff?
Well, not only want to sell you new stuff, but why would you try and put everything into one tome when you can split it over 3 tomes and make people buy 3 new battle tomes? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I agree. I'm afraid of. Pardon me.
Yeah,
I mean, they've unified like the ogres before.
They did.
And the orcs.
Well, they sort of did. They just put them in one tome, but they weren't really unified. You've still got the differences between the basic tribes and the.
Which is okay.
I guess we could have something like the Oryx had. Like they had the Bonesplitterz, the Iron Jaws. Now it's Auric War Clans. You can still play, each one independently, but you can also make a big one.
Yeah, I think that was laziness though from GW's part on the Oryx.
Probably.
Because it'd be easier for them to say you've got new models for orcs if you combine both ranges into one army.
Yeah.
So if you were playing pure Iron Jaws before, but now you can buy Bonesplitter models. If you're playing Bonesplitters, now you can buy Iron Jaws and use them in your armies. I don't think Will Clans will stay as a book. I think they eventually will split.
And I think Legions of Nagash was a placeholder as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like that's a battle tome that's going to disappear eventually. Mm-hmm. Like Legions is only a matter. It's
Nagash dying anyway. In 2 months, we know Tekla's gonna kick his ass, his nerdy ass. No, what I just want to finish, because I've spoken about like new Broken Realms with other people before, and I've said, I wish there was something for Duardin, but we don't have like that one person to like unify them under one banner. Because let's face it, Brock is just shit. He's stupid. No, he's not gonna do it. Gotrek would be okay, but Gotrek in the Age of Sigmar narrative, he doesn't do much. He has not much influence. They keep him around because he's everyone's favorite hero for novels.
He's not a leader.
But he's not a leader, and he's not the one who's going to unite. And he doesn't care about the others. He's like, I want to find Felix, and I want to kick ass. But then I found, when they all share this story of Grombrindal, and we had him, and there's also actually a Age of Sigmar book series called, I wrote it down, Where is it? It's great. Not finding it. Where did I write this down?
It's a lovely title.
The 8 Lamentations novel series. It's from 2016 or 17, I think. Where actually Grombrindal, he appears as a character, and he meets Grogny. So that's also an indication that they're not the same person. And he runs around, and he also meets Gotrek, and he meets Gotrek's new follower, which is a dark elf lady that he runs around, and he tells her, "Yeah, I know. I used to know a big dark elf lord. I was friends with one. We all know that is Malarion, because not Snorri Whitebeard, the first High King, he was big friends with him, with Malarion, and he swore an oath to protect his people and keep the friendship. And then we all know that Malekith, or Malarion, he screwed up everything. He created a big war between dwarves and elves, and maybe Malarion's up to something again, and that's called Grombrindal back. Maybe he's coming back because the so-called, what are they called, Umbraneth, the Dark Elf faction, the new one. Maybe he's up to something, and Grombrindal does not approve. Maybe that's why he's back.
Dual box release between the Umbraneth and whatever the new Duardin faction is. I think it would be a new release.
Yeah, I think it's a new faction, and I'm not sure what I think about that, because what are they gonna do? Is it some mechanic, suits and steam guys? Well, we already have the steampunk aesthetic covered with Kharadron.
Well, they might go what they did with the Lumineth, like bring back the old aesthetic, but with a bang. So
yeah, I don't want like Zootopia in my dwarf army.
No, I'm not saying Zootopia. I'm just saying they might like do more traditional sculpts.
I hope
and more engines of war, maybe. I don't know.
Engines of war, or another theme that I came across is Grogny. His realm that he escaped was Shamon, Shamon, as it's called. And when I read that passage, it talks about it's for the dwarves and it's for the golem people. He mentions golems that live there, so maybe we'll see some sort of fire golems, earth golems mixed with Duardin, like corporations. Instead of having cow avatars, we have like fire magma golems. I don't know. Could be cool. Yeah, but that's very exciting. I don't think it's something we'll see in the near future. Maybe this year, maybe next year. But I'm excited.
6 months, 5 months now, because we've obviously had the first story.
For the stories, and there'll be another 1 or 2 months before we see anything, or they confirm anything, or they show us anything.
It's not going to happen midway through the stories, is it? It's going to happen at the end. So.
Well, there's also a theory that the Chaos Dwarfs are getting a new miniature line.
Oh, Kron is
because GW themselves has taken all the Chaos Dwarf stuff off Forge World, as in they no longer make them anymore.
Yeah, they broke the mold.
Yeah, it would not surprise me in the near future if that's one of the new factions that actually pops through as Chaos Dwarfs, not the regular dwarf faction.
But why would?
But it's the same. But it'd be the same. It'd be the same thing, like always. It comes through. It's not what everyone thinks it's going to be. Everyone thinks they're going to get Chaos Dwarfs back with Hash Hut and all that sort of stuff, and it's not. And then that comes
because
through.
that's Lumineth. They have Hashut. They have the cows. That's them.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's them. They're cosplaying Chaos Dwarf.
But it's been rumored for a while that Chaos Dwarfs were going to get a new line, and the fact that they've taken them all off Forge World is usually a good distinction, and that's usually what's going to fucking happen. So I would expect Chaos Dwarfs probably in the next year to show up. So
chaos.
That's a bold statement.
It is, but I usually they've done this many times before. So I mean, it's usually an indication that's usually what's going to happen, unless they literally just get rid of them. Just go, no more Chaos Dwarfs.
Yeah, I think maybe they get rid of them.
Which would not be surprising, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think they'd do it either. It's moneymaker. As soon as, like, I don't know about you, but if Chaos Dwarfs did show up, I'd be in there like swimwear. I'd just straight away I'd buy all the Chaos Dwarfs.
I mean, it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would. It would be pretty cool.
Hell cannons, Kron. Hell cannons.
Well, look. hell cannons were totally legal in Barak Thrane while hell cannons still existed. They will be again.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, we've seen warbands, Warcry warbands with Chaos Dwarfs in them.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
the Iron Golems, they have a dwarf running around. We
Yeah.
have seen Chaos Elf worshippers in other warbands.
Yeah.
Maybe. And they are prominent. They talk about them in the Marathi book, I think. They're forging demon engines and excavating the realm stone,
Varanite.
whatever it is. Yeah, Varanite.
They're mentioned in the Sons of Behemoth book too, the Chaos Dwarfs.
Mhm.
So like this is not like something that's old. Like it seems like they want to keep it in canon. So
They keep
but yeah,
mentioning it. Yeah.
so in one of the thingos, I think it was Bruno, the Kraken Eater one. He runs through and gets fights a dwarf, Chaos Dwarf, like I don't know, like lair or whatever you call it, and smashes up the place. So they are mentioned. They're there. So yeah.
Cool.
But anyway,
All right.
We'll see.
Should we get into the list
No.
and
Let's
the
talk Dwarves.
tournament? It's
Who
been
cares about tournaments?
Yes.
we're almost an hour in.
Yeah.
Ah,
That was
40.
a lot. Right. So we've got on screen here Patrick's list. For people that will listen to this on a podcast and can't see, I'll just quickly read it out. So the general is an engine master with dirigible suit. The command trait is Great Tinkerer, and then he has the Staff of Ocular Optimization because it's Barak Zilfin, so he has to. Then he has an Arcanite Admiral, yes, because he's awesome, with the Rune of Mark artifact, which is also awesome. Then the battle line is 2 units of 3 Sky Wardens, both with 1 volley gun and 1 Skyhook, and then a unit of 6 Sky Wardens, which had 1 Skyhook. So I'm assuming the other 5 are pistols and Sky Pikes. Is that correct, Patrick?
yeah, man, yep.
Cool. And then you've got 10 Thunderers with rifles, 3 gun haulers, 1 with the Spar torpedo, 1 with the Surge injection engines, an Ironclad with Great Skyhook and the Deal Breaker battle ram, Escort Wing battalion, and an extra command point.
Yeah, that's it. That was my 2K list.
1990 points.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
3 questions for you, Patrick.
Yeah, okay.
Can I
Sure.
go ahead, Lee?
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So first one, congrats on putting the Admiral in there. I'm actually gonna.
I'll actually be honest with you. I think he's the best character in our battle time.
Well, the more and more I talked with Cal Caleb, who's on the show tonight or today or whatever it is, I think it's a hidden gem. The Rune of Mark. How did it work for you?
Perfect. Did exactly what I wanted it to do.
All right.
So I was able to recycle. Aether Gold shares to basically double up on my Thunderers, or allow my Ironclad to be a little bit more survivable again if I needed it to. So it just, because I don't know, to understand my army and my choices, you got to go back to when I started playing them originally in their battle tome, in their very first battle tome, was like under the old tome, there was no chance as a KO player for you to get aggressive and play 2 objectives. There was no fucking chance because your army just literally couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Whereas for me personally, the biggest changes from old tome to new tome was the fact that now we actually get to play in the combat phase.
Yeah.
We actually have a lot of things in our armies now that can play in the combat phase more than we ever could. Now, you could play them in the traditional sense in KO and just try and blat your way to death. But the problem with that is you're always playing behind on turns for objectives. So unless you absolutely annihilate your opponent in 2 turns, you've lost.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's basically how it works. So if you don't nearly table your opponent by 2 turns, you've lost that game. Now, when I go to tournaments, I never plan on playing against morons, because sure as shit, eventually you will come against good players with good lists, and all it takes is a little bit of summoning, and you will never get that game back. Like you'll table your opponent, you'll go, sweet man, I tabled you, but you'll lose on mission. And then once that, because KO now under this book, under the new tome, don't have board presence, because I used to have like 54 models in my old KO list. Now I have 26, 27. And now that everything sits inside ships, I even have less of a board presence.
Yeah.
So the way that has to operate for me personally is I have to get into combat. Even if it sounds silly and you're like, KO, don't get into combat, you have to build for it. There's no option, because you should, like, that's like, if you're playing against armies, like most armies aren't expecting it for a KO army to literally charge them. But just with the bulk mortal wounds that this army can put out, like I don't shoot at Maw Crushers anymore. I charge them.
Yeah.
Between the battering rams, the bombs, the spark torpedoes, and then the admiral attacking, when he's like 2s and 2s at rerolling 1s for both at -2 for 2, it's enough just to bop a Maw Crusher out of kill it. So then your firepower goes into other stuff. So you're not just you're not playing on the back foot every fucking turn. And it takes heaps of people by surprise because they just don't expect it.
So here's a question: if you plan going combat, why do the MSU units then have like 2 special weapons?
Because I needed to at least form out lines, like for points. I don't have the points in the list to take more Sky Wardens. So at 3-man units, their most efficient way, in my opinion, is when you run them with guns at max shooting. So that's why they have the volley guns and skyhooks, and they're purely there for support for things like the gun haulers. So
because you say you want to play in the combat phase, but the only one who plays in the combat phase is the Admiral and the Sky Wardens, the 6-man,
and the Ironclad,
and the Endrin Master.
Yeah, okay, the bombs, because the rest happens in the charge phase.
Yeah, that's right. So because it activates outside of phase, especially even all the bombs and stuff. When you're activating those many units outside of phase, even armies that do go first, you can generally still fucking hurt them and cripple them. So it helps, like, because usually the Endrin Master obviously babysits the Ironclad. Now the reason why I run a gunstock hauler with the surge injection is it still allows me to push that up pretty fast in behind the Ironclad, so it gets an after save. So I don't have to, and same with the other gun haulers. Like with the ability just to push out 18, it allows me to get into charges where I need to be.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we have seen that injection engine with Timo, I think, who won the GTC back in October. He also had that on his gun hauler.
Yeah, just people don't expect it to just move that fast without flying high.
So the fact that it does that just means I don't have to, like, I'm not always sweating putting my Ironclad out of position of getting an after save. So it always allows it to at least get something. So I can put it where I need it to go. So yeah.
And second question would be, you bought an extra command point. Why the command point instead of the very good possibility of getting a triumph?
Well, at 1990, my army's full of triumphs because we've all got Aethercast.
Yeah.
So it's not a massive problem. Most of the armies I played against, I was still under points because everyone was 2,000 points on the nose.
Okay.
But the extra CP helps for the Endrin Master. So the way I use my Endrin Master, obviously I spend a CP on him so he can reroll 1s for saving throws in combat. And then I usually use him and the Ironclad to sort of bunker down for the 6 Sky Wardens. So then they can pick their combats a little bit easier because Sky Wardens have a 2-inch combat reach, not a 1-inch like the Riggers do. So it allows me to lessen the impact, like lessen if I fuck up, or not even fuck up, if my dice just fail me. It allows the Sky Wardens to only really cop like 2 dudes back rather than like a fuck ton more. Because the Riggers have a 1-inch combat reach, for them it's all or nothing. And that's why I kind of don't like them. I know the maths says that they're better. I know that they say that they're better, but the problem is even if you roll slightly below average, like literally slightly, the Riggers are useless. They do next to fucking nothing. So like if you fail a couple of hits with a unit of Riggers, it never turns out the way like maths always says one thing, but then strategy and tactics dictate another thing.
I'm sold on Wardens, by the way. You know, I play Barak Zilfin right now, so I'm totally sold on Wardens.
Well, I always prefer more dice. I'm always and then with the ability for the extra CP and stuff like that to be able to reroll 1s to hit on them anyway, it's enough with 11 attacks just to pump out what you need to do. Even though they're only at -1, most of the stuff you're hitting, well, that I was hitting Sky Wardens with, Neg 1 was enough just to clean whole sections,
Okay.
like whole units off, because
All right.
you know,
Interesting.
especially with pistols. So
I got one last question for you, Patrick.
Yeah.
I noticed that in your list you don't have any Arcanauts, and I can see why. But was that ever an issue in your 6 games that you
No.
said, "Wow, I need those Arcanauts. I would need those Arcanauts to screen or capture back objectives or whatever. I have more bodies." Did you regret it?
No, not a little
Okay.
bit. It
Or
wasn't.
screen yourself from an alpha or something.
Yeah.
In most of those sorts of cases, when it comes to those sorts of things, I usually use haulers and the 3-man Skywarden units. So if I have to absolutely 100% protect myself, I can. I've got that extra gun hauler there just with no engines for that. So if I need to, I can. Because realistically, like I said, our imprint on the board is small. It's tiny. I'm really only protecting like the Ironclad, the Admiral, and the Engine Master, and maybe 6 Skywardens. So I've got the rest of that list to screen if I need it. But because the print, like the layout of the army is so small, you don't need much to protect it. Like literally 2 units of 3 Skywardens is enough if you want to sacrifice. But I never found it a problem for the most part, because you had to be pushing, you had to be hauling ass turn 1 in movement to be able to sort of get to me, because I don't know, I work backwards with KO. I'm more worried about gaining board control than objectives, because board control is pretty essential for them. So, you know, if you're dictating to your opponent how and where the fights are happening, you don't really have to worry about, because then they're reacting to you, not the other way around. But yeah, I've still got units in there if I need to sacrifice. I didn't really have to worry too much about it. But yeah.
Cool.
But yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah.
Okay. So, 'cause you mentioned about the importance of getting into combat. Is obviously a lot of that the damage is coming from, you know, bombs and stuff. But is part of that element because fly high just gets zoned out?
It can be, but I'd like. It's literally about just raking up enough victory points to keep going, because you can easily with KO, like I said before, you can table people but then lose the mission. It's super easy to do. It's not hard, and get carried away. But it's just like say when I was playing against the Slaanesh player in the last round, I had a really 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 awful shooting phase. Like my first turn, I still killed a few chariots, but realistically, it wasn't really crash shot. I missed with like 3 of my cannon shots. All my little 3-man Skywardens missed with everything. Even the Ironclad missed with most of its shots. But I would like straight away, if you do that usually as a KO player, that's sort of game over at that stage, because like then, you know, if they get a priority, then they win. But because I had combat built in, I still managed to delete like 4 or 5 chariots through combat. So like the Engine Master and the Skywardens got rid of a chariot. The Ironclad by itself with the Admiral got rid of a chariot. So it was enough to give me a little bit of board space and a little bit of breathing room. Whereas if I hadn't have built for that, or hadn't have had anything on my list like that, I would have straight up just lost, because I would have just been, you know, that's game, that's over. So like having an extra, and even if I have to play against armies that are bad for me, like Nurgle and stuff like that, I've still got options to be able to do the things that I need to do in those certain circumstances. Because usually if you're playing against armies like Nurgle and stuff like that, that's usually not very good for KO at the best of times, especially if they've got massive Nurgle blocks. But even if you just do the mortal wounds and stuff like that, it's enough to chip away that you can actually start getting rid of their neg ones to hit, and then you can sort of bail back out if you need to, shoot, and then punch into something else and rinse and repeat. So it's enough to just keep you in the game, basically. So you don't have such polarizing matchups, which KO often do. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we could probably move on to look at one of your games. So your first game against Seraphon was a little bit of an unusual list, because it was Koatl. It's one of the coalesced lists. I'm not going to read it all out, because I don't think we really need to do that for all of the list. But it's basically lots of Carnosaurs and Saurus Warriors.
I actually really like this list. It was really, really good. Like watching it play out was really, really good. I even said to Mike, I was like, I really, really like this list. This list is good because it catches, like you look at it and it doesn't look like much until you realize that 40-man block has a 2-up save. And you're like, ah, shit. And then you realize that all the Scar veterans and odd bloods and everything else explode on 6s, and everything in the army in combat hits on 2s, and it moves really quick.
That's just the thing with Seraphon. You can just throw anything in, and it's a good list.
Everything can be good
because everything synergizes with everyone. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I still remember when they released the Seraphon book, and everyone had a shit fit, especially old Seraphon players. And I was like, "What the fuck are you guys reading the same book as I am? This book is amazing."
Nasty thing about Coalesced is it kind of it makes our carbines on our boats effectively useless because they all become damage 1.
Yeah.
So now you're just damage 1 everything. All this damage 2 we have D3 even.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
It's very
tough.
frustrating. It's very frustrating to fight against. I can tell you that. Yeah. Played Mike. He made one mistake, and it cost him the game because turn 1, Croak was not within, just like literally by an inch out of 3 for Lookout Sir. So then I literally just sat back with all my long range weapons and just pumped Croak turn 1 and killed him.
Because he doesn't have any Saurus Guard either for him, does he?
No,
he doesn't have.
No. So I just pumped Croak because I was like, you're not having mortal wounds. I'm not letting you do that. No, thank you. As a KO player, you hate mortal wounds with a passion. So yeah, I killed Croak turn 1, and that was after that. He was just like, well, now I've got to fucking run at you, and I'm like, yeah, you do. Woo. So yeah, that was literally that game. Yeah, he charged me with his 40 block into the clad. Didn't do a great deal against the clad, and then I attacked back. Did some damage, did a little bit of damage, not a great deal, and then in the following turn I shot and combated because up in the top right hand corner objective, that's where I had 2 gun haulers and the 2 3-man units on that objective, and then I had my ironclad and basically the rest of my army in the bottom left. In the top right there was a mystical terrain piece as well, so that allowed me to keep things alive a little bit longer. But I was just, when I was in that objective, I was too far away for the Saurus to do anything. It wasn't until a Carnosaur came across. It mattered, but it tried to do too much. It split its attacks into both gun haulers and didn't do enough. So I was like trying to do too much at once. So then I just backed down to the bottom right-hand corner and just shot the fuck out of it and killed it. And then killed his general too, with the shooting and combat too on the left-hand side. Because Thunder is pumped into it the first turn, and then between combat and other shooting and stuff, it just died. So by sort of turn 2, I'd killed both Carnosaurs, most of his Saurus, and Croak. So he pretty much shook hands at the end of turn 2 after that. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, one question about the Thunderers. So my personal experience is 10 Thunderers in a boat. In my personal experience, they're not worth it because the damage output is not enough for what they cost points. Where I value them is 20 blocks with special weapons when they're out of the boat, and then they get the +1 to hit and everything. But since you said you always you want to fly your boat into the enemies, you want to crash land. I guess, is that where they get more value because then in the subsequent combat phase you get an extra shot?
Yeah, well, they don't inside the boat, but I mean, being able to even though the attacks aren't crash hot, the boat combined with the ironclad and the Thunderers. So because I've got repel borders, my attacks are actually pretty reliable on the to hit roll. So I'm still pumping out 18 attacks, 3s and 4s. So it's enough. Yeah. And other things like that it's enough that you're not gonna wipe out units, but you're still gonna chip away enough that it's just it gets pretty repetitive when you just keep fucking off and doing it every turn. So most of the stuff, you got to be able to know what you can and cannot take on. Most KO players don't play the combat phase, so it comes down to a little bit more knowledge as far as your opponent's army goes to know what you can and can't take. And the averages that you're supposed to produce with most of your stuff, but it's my Thunderers were there just to simply clean screens, and if I absolutely 100% had to, I'd just pump them into other characters and stuff like that. And I found they were perfectly fine for that. Like 22 shots is still fucking amazing, like regardless of how you think of it. But yeah, I didn't have a problem with my Thunderers at all that game. Plus 100, I needed them because you need to fill up for the battalion. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess they're re-rolling ones to hit. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's similar to how Dave Khaine used them. I remember when we interviewed him, and he was, charging his Ironclad in with Thunderers inside, and then he was normally attacking with the Thunderers first before his heroes.
It depends what I was fighting against. Most of the time, if I'm charging a clad into something, it's usually something big, because then the Admiral fights, and the Admiral just fucking he's the best. I love that dude. I just love him so much because using his CP ability as well. I didn't need to do it over the course of the weekend, but like being able to obviously use the Zilfin ability to move and fly high, and then if someone tries to zone me out that much, but they spread out too far, I can still use his CP ability to run and shoot. So I can just jump over the back of someone's army and still fire into the middle of their list if I need to, or get to important units. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, that was my game against Seraphon, round 1.
All right.
Yeah, it sounds like that was a fairly straightforward one. So the next game was against some Fresh Eater Corps, which was Blisterskin. So they had quite a few bodies, and they had flyers and horrors and things. They had quite a few sort of movement tricks as well.
Yep,
so
they did.
Surprisingly fast, probably.
Yeah, he against me, he turn 1 Zenith. I gave him the turn because I beat him on drops, but he went first and decided to get super aggressive and take objectives, not knowing that you can't burn objectives turn 1. So he jumped forward trying to burn everything, trying to burn things turn 1, and then I just turned around and shot him. And then when we went to the double turn as well, so like turn 1, he came on sort of the bottom left-hand side to take that objective, and then he pumped a unit of flayers on the right-hand side, right down towards that objective, because I had a gun hauler and 3 Sky Wardens there, and then I had another gun hauler in the sort of the way I'm looking at it, the second on your right. I had another gun hauler and 3 Sky Wardens there, and then I kept a clad, the Android Master, and that in the other side as well to sort of be reactionary if I needed to. So yeah, he pumped that in, killed one of my gun haulers turn 1, because he summoned a Vargulf, so they could fight twice. And then I turned around, shot 3 of the other. In my turn 1, I shot with my 6 Sky Wardens into his flayers, hurt them, put a gun hauler into them, nearly killed them down. They only had 1 guy left with 2 wounds. On the right-hand side, I was just basically, I pushed the other gun hauler and the 3 Sky Wardens, obviously still staying within objective range, to start shooting at the flayers as well. And I got them down to like 3 or 4 models, and then we did a priority roll. I also jumped up with the Ironclad and shot the living piss out of his Terrorgeist. So with reroll hits, because I spent my Aether Gold and just deleted it, and that managed me to generate my Aether Gold back, because he was the one I used for the Rune of Mark. So I read the whole Ironclad and everything regenerated their things again, and then I charged into the flayers with the clad, also making sure that my gun hauler was within range of the clad as well. So there was 6 of the big ghouls, and I deleted like 2 of them. And then he attacked back, didn't really do anything. And then we went into priority, like I said, into turn 2, and I doubled him. Flew high with the Ironclad, fucked off, jumped in behind the ghouls, killed the rest of his characters, and that was pretty much it. Like once you kill Fex characters, their game's over. Yeah,
they don't summon, because I suspect summoning on this battle plan is very hard, because once they start summoning, and I think I played the exact not Scorched. I played one also with a lot of objectives against FEC in my last tournament game, and I knew I need to kill those characters before they start summoning, because if not, I'm going to start to lose points.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the advantage of Feck, but like especially in Scorched Earth. But it was always like, I don't know. Every time I play against Feck, it's either you've either won or lost by turn 2. It doesn't matter how everything else goes, but you've won or lost. But most of the time against Feck in most games, I usually don't really have a hard time against them, to be honest. Because like just about
fairly
all of their,
squishy.
yeah, like all their attacks are 4s. So like if like they have bulk attacks, but it's still 4s to hit. So like their damage output is great, but it's just not like it's sort of focused, if that makes sense. But yeah, I didn't. Even when I was playing the old KO against the current Feck, I didn't really have a hard time playing against them because it was sort of super simple game to play, basically.
And with Zilfin in the old book, they were tailor-made to take on Flesh Eater Courts.
Yeah, well, everything was fly. Everything was fly. So yeah, so it was always like
still, you roll once to hit. Yeah.
And wounds.
Yeah. So it's just I never had a problem with KO against Feck, and same thing with Slaanesh really, and that's sort of that still stayed true under the new book. So that
All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's move on to probably one of the. No, it's actually further on. I thought the IDK. This game was next. The next game was Bonesplitterz.
Dragfoot. Dragfoot is the one that ignores after saves. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct, man. The after saves and ethereal.
Yeah, the Fire Slayer's nightmare. Those guys.
Yeah. which is when you're playing if you've ever played Savage Orcs, it's like really only affects the big stabbers and the rogue idol, ignoring ethereal because nothing else has range.
No, so, but like the previous list, they've got abilities to sort of do things out of phase. So they have some movement tricks, or in fact they use it for attacking and stuff. There's a few different tricks here. So are you assuming you're aware of them before? Well,
Backgammy is a regular opponent of mine. He's one of my mates, so I play against him a fair bit. So I know exactly what to do when I'm playing against Splitters. And he's always on the back foot when he plays against my KO. But if I get a double turn on him, it's like over. Like the game's really not good for him, and that's exactly what happened. So
is this the 28-inch uncharged flying rogue idol trick?
It is. He can do that, but it's just like he didn't try and pump the rogue idol into me. He just pushed it towards objectives because I was too far away from the rogue idol. And then he got ahead on me turn 1 for objectives, but then I turned up, I killed the rogue idol. I really severely hurt his arrow boys, 1 unit of arrow boys, and then I priorityed I went into double turn, then I killed the rest of the arrow boys, the big stabbers, and severely mauled his 20-man unit as well. So by the end of turn 2, he had 20 arrow boys and 2 characters, I think it was, at the end of that. So after that, it's all done and said after that. There's no way they sort of come back from that.
So one question: your list is 3 drops, and you now twice in a row got a double turn from going turn 1 to turn 2. Did you opt? Did you always have the choice who starts the game?
Well, I think that's one of the most important things for KO. I've always think that they should always be low drop count because they are a firepower heavy list, and you need to dictate the turns to people on how you play that game. You can't have that dictated back at you. Even if you try and build KO to have a lot of bodies, it still doesn't work out well. So even if you have Arcanauts and all that sort of stuff to try and absorb that, you still need battalions to keep yourself low on drop count. It was easier before under the old book because you just put everything in a boat. So you just put it in a boat and it counts as 1 drop. But now that everything counts as is what it is, you need those battalions to 100% to keep your drop count low, so you can always choose the bottom of turn. Because
I fully agree. Yes.
Yeah, for some armies, if you get that double turn, for example the Splitters, and even the Feck, if you get that double turn, especially if you're playing yeah, it is. If you're playing shooting in combat, it's over. So yeah, so that's why I always did it. But yeah, I double turn both armies, and it's just like, yeah, the end result is not nice.
No, 100% agree. As KO, you want to go second. Like that, as a rule, you need to be able to go
unless
second.
you can kill Techless, maybe turn 1.
Or Croak.
Or Croak. Then I think about it if I want to go first or not. But you want to have the choice. Yes, I agree. I do the same. I built my armies the same. I want to be like 3 drops or less, so I can dictate.
That's kind of the way. That's kind of upsetting though for the actual army though, because it means you're limited. You're extremely limited what you can do. Like as far
you're
as
banking on a double turn.
Well, not banking on a double turn, but I mean like just building in general. Like you're limited in what you can do because you're either going Iron Sky Command,
or Escort Wing,
and the even the Iron Sky Attack Squadron. Like you're really limited.
Or double battalion, yeah. But although we had people on the show who would advocate the opposite and go with 50 boats and like 20 drops and still play a very good game.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think if you're playing high drop KO, you're playing on hard mode.
Yeah.
Well, you're playing screens and then
go that far.
going so far away because you say, I don't care. Even if I need to go first, either I can delete something or I just, shim up 2 inches and say, okay, your turn.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Because a lot of games, because even though you've built combat into your list, we've just seen from the last 2 games that you still have enough shooting that if you get a double turn, then it can often be game.
Yeah, but the idol was killed by mortal wounds, I bet.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because shoot idols with a 5+ feel no pain, it takes a lot of shooting.
Yeah, I charged it with basically all my boats in one turn,
okay.
and then launched the star torpedoes and everything else,
Yep.
Yeah, and that was it.
So
that's actually a nice trick of your list. I appreciate that. You can just pick out single, very defensive things and just go, okay, I'm gonna pump mortal wounds into you, and it's gone anyway.
Yeah.
Cool.
Going back to the first game, because I can't remember exactly what we said. Did you out drop the Seraphon in the first game?
Yes, I did. There were 4 drops.
And then you chose to take the first turn.
No, I gave it to him.
So did you get the double turn in that one as well?
No, actually, I didn't.
No.
I didn't get the double turn in turn 1. No, but I gave him first turn. I did get hit by some mortal wounds from Croak, but it wasn't I stayed far enough away that he couldn't hit me with like bulk mortal wounds, so he could only do it with just like
the one spell.
Yeah, the one spell, and then after that, it was like it did. I think it did like 2 wounds to the Admiral and like 1 wound to the Thunderers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think maybe 1 more wound, 1 or 2 wounds to the Ironclad as well. But I healed the Ironclad back, obviously, and the rest is history.
Because he didn't have the Vortex nor the Asteroid, so the range is limited on that Croak. Yeah,
correct. Yep.
My follow-up question to that is: did he deploy badly in terms of like Croak not getting lookout sail, or did he?
Well, it wasn't his deployment that was bad. It was his first turn of movement.
Yeah,
like literally, like he pushed his Saurus out, and everything else, and then had everything sort of hidden in amongst all the Saurus. But by pushing out that little bit too far, he then wasn't in range for lookout sir.
Yeah.
So, and then like after he moved, I just measured range from Croak to the closest Saurus warrior, and he wasn't in range. So I was like, all right, well, here we go.
There's another benefit of making your opponent go first. Then is they can deploy as carefully as they want, but once it gets mid-turn and they start making movement, they can then start making mistakes.
Well, with KO, the fact that they can get anywhere in a second is usually what undoes people because they try and outscreen out the back. They're so worried about all that other stuff. And then when they do that, it kind of fucks them over. Whereas if they'd have just done whatever the fuck they wanted, like if he'd have deployed all of his Carnosaurs like right in front of me, like in a line, cast his cogs and everything else, and then use his King Priest, he could have charged me turn 1 with 3 Carnosaurs easily. but he didn't. And even if he did, and I went, well, I'm going to go first so I can kill them, he could then use Croak to magic me to death. But he didn't do that either. So, but anyway.
Okay, so coming back to, because we've circled back a bit there, but coming back to the Bonesplitterz game, then that was on focal points. So did you find you managed to get extra points from the Ironclad? Was that helpful?
It was helpful, but it's all I don't know. When I play KO, especially on those sorts of circumstances, it's all about board control. Like if you do enough of the damage and get yourselves into certain positions, because I was in the in that game, I was, depending on how you see it, I was sort of in the bottom left-hand corner. So the Rogue Idol was near Objective 2, and I was in the bottom left-hand corner when I deployed. So there was no way the Rogue Idol was going to hit me turn 1. So instead, the Rogue Idol got the movement spell and put itself within range of 3 and 5 for objective purposes. And then he basically capped everything except for 4 turn 1. And then I pumped across, flew high, shot the fuck out of just about between 2 and 4. There was a lot of orcs sitting there. So I pumped all my shooting into them and pretty much cleaned most of it out. And then charged into the Rogue Idol and killed it. So then sort of when I double turned him, the stabbers were between 1 and 5, if that makes sense. And then they had a unit of bow guys there as well, and most of his characters were sort of hanging out. I shot 2 of the characters dead. I killed the stabbers in the shooting phase. And then I proceeded to charge the Savage boys that were sort of between 1, 5, and 2. And I deleted them as well. So that was the game at that stage, because all he had left was 20 Savage Orcs with bows and 2 characters that couldn't buff them in the shooting phase, because I killed his +1 to hit character. So that was it.
Is the Idol's base big enough to cap 2 objectives for the extra points?
It is.
Okay.
It is. That's 100%. It is. So yeah, it was able to cap both of them. But after that turn 2, I capped 3, 4, 5, and 2 back. So and then and when we still had another 3 turns left. So it's just all you have left is 2 characters and 20 savages with bows. So it's kind of much of the muchness at that stage. So that was my game against the savages.
You're just everyone says KO is, they just throw in, shoot you off, and it's a bad play. All your games so far have been 2 rounds, and people give up.
Nah, just rush them, just smash them.
But it is. But KO do provide, in my opinion, they do provide a negative gaming play experience to play against, because, like I said, everyone's Sigmar's all about combat. That's ultimately what the game's supposed to be about, and KO don't play in that phase. But at the same time, it can also be bad for the KO player to table people and still lose because of objectives. So, the fact that when I teleport in, I do try and get in there. I'm not fucking around doing whatever. I do actually get in there and try and shoot and charge and everything else. So, it still creates a negative play experience, because when I'm doing my combats, it's basically me doing my stuff and you standing there just taking it. But
that's the thing. You're shooting, but they cannot attack back, and that's the
It always creates
damage is always better than combat damage.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but usually at the flip side of that is the game is 5 turns flat, and it is about objectives. So it can work in other people's favor, especially if your KO isn't designed for combat, because then you can't rack up VP that quickly. You can table people fast, but you can't rack up VP fast.
Yeah, I mean there are other builds where you can actually put bodies on the board for you.
Yeah, but then you run the risk, if you were playing against the Bonesplitterz, of copping 20 orcs in the middle of your army turn 1 with 120 attacks. So that's also a problem.
Screens, 10 Arcanaut screens.
It's the Arcanauts aren't going to live up to that, because then you have to deal with 20 orcs with 6 attacks each, and 6s generate more hits, and they hit.
No, they've run into the arcs. The arcs explode, but that's 90 points. I don't care. And next round, the rest of my army is moving elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to your tournament.
Yeah. So that was against the savages.
Yeah,
okay.
So,
still, shout out to Matt, was his name, I think. Coming 12th with Bonesplitterz. Well done.
Yeah.
So we've got a question from the chat, which was sort of how much damage were you taking on your Ironclad during games, and were you needing to heal it a lot?
Not really. The only game that actually is where it sort of really had to come out or be problematic was when I was playing against the Idoneth Deepkin.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only game where literally it was one heal that allowed me to that didn't stop me from flying high. So it was literally just there was 2 wounds in it. And if Volturnus and the turtle, Volturnus and the turtle pretty much, the turtle air swung and Volturnus just didn't do enough. And that was all that was in it for me to do what I needed to do then. And that was the only game where that became a massive problem.
Mm-hmm.
Except for obviously except for when I played against Marathi. I lost that game because the Ironclad I lost the priority roll. I lost the Ironclad turn 2.
So is part of the reason for that because, when you charge in, you do the battle ram, then you do the spar torpedo, and then you drop 4 lots of bombs. Is it just because you delete things?
It's that, and it's also positioning. Like you've only got a 3-inch pile in when you make your attacks. Most stuff only have a 1-inch combat reach. Mm-hmm. It's when you're basically dropping wherever the fuck you want into that scenario. It's pretty easy to have damage reduction coming back at you to the point where it's very limited. And it's not like you're only really copying, especially if you position yourself in such a way, you're only really copying like 4 or 5 dudes in combat after they do their piles and their attacks. So unless the unit itself is something like a brute unit or something that's buffed up to the max, it's like most of the damage that sort of comes back at you is pretty negligible. So you don't have to worry about it too much. And if you do, you've still got the Aether Gold share there for the reroll saves if it becomes that much of a problem. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just the ability for KO with their movement. You can literally, like when you're doing combats, you're doing them how you want to do them essentially because you can literally turn up anywhere. So you're just positioning yourself to go wherever you want to go. So if there's something that is that threatening that can do that much damage, you just don't charge it unless you are 100% certain that you can at least either cripple it or kill it. So like taking damage isn't necessarily a problem, if that makes sense. So you can either delete the target or when it attacks back, it's attacking you back with 2 fists of fuck all. So that's, yeah.
So you mentioned as well about getting a gun hauler up within range of the Ironclad.
Yep.
And I assume the one with the spar torpedo is at least charging once because it's.
Yeah.
Are you positioning that so that takes most of the enemy's pile in and protects the Ironclad to an extent? Or
well, the Ironclad's also the most resilient unit out of in the entire army. So like sometimes it just depends. Like if you're playing against savages, like in this mission, for example, I don't mind piling an Ironclad in for the turn and it taking all the damage because you're looking at 3 up on rerollable saves. Mm-hmm. So it's not really, again, when you're doing the math on it, it's pretty, it's pretty out there. So when savages are attacking you back with no range, you don't care. Like you're looking at like 2 wins. You're just looking at like 2.
The main worry is very high rend or mortal wounds, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But then if you are going into something like that, you're going into it with everything, and then it doesn't live, and then you don't care anyway again. So yeah. So like it's like I was saying when you're attacking the Maw Crushers. Like if you're attacking a Maw Crusher, you just make sure that you have enough to take out the Maw Crusher, or use your shooting so you don't have to commit so much into the combat to then, do whatever. So like if the Maw Crusher's full wounds, you might fire some shots at it just to lower it down brackets and then charge it so you can mortal wound it out. So you like KO just have the tools to do so much. So it depends on the decision making at the time. That's all. So yeah.
Okay, so does anyone have any other questions or follow-ups on that before we move on to the Idoneth Deepkin game?
I'm good.
No.
Yeah, I'm interested in the next one.
Oh yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
The next 2 games are probably some of the more interesting ones. So game 4 against Idoneth Deepkin with lots of eels. And
so many eels.
Recently as well because of Broken Realms. So 2-up save eels.
Yeah, that was fun. That was super fun.
2-up unrendable.
Yeah, super fun. Yeah.
So, I mean, what was your before we actually go into detail? But what was your thought when you saw the list? Like, were you confident or? Were you...
Well, again, Luke McFadden is a regular opponent of mine,
Mhm.
so he's a mate. And I've played against Idoneth a fair few times with KO. Most of the time it depends on mission. Like we were actually scheduled to play round 2 in Scorched Earth, and I was like, cool, I just lost the tournament. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to pump through what I need to do to play it in Scorched Earth. But then there was a fuck up with the round draw, so I had to redraw it. So that's when I got the feck instead, and I was like, oh, that's a bit better than that.
Much easier.
Yeah. But playing it in Total Commitment, it wasn't really like playing against Idoneth. I find if they don't shut KO down early, KO get to do what they want, and then that causes them so many problems. So in this sort of mission, he sort of sat there in camp turn 1 and then spread out the Aether Wings. I shot the Aether Wings and killed them, and then got to shoot some more shots into the Alapex because it moved up a little bit further. I did it like early, like in the first turn. I think I did maybe like 1 or 2 wounds as well to the Island Guard, just with like long range shooting. And then all I did was make sure my Ironclad was slightly in range of the Leviathan and Volturnus. And then but made sure I was like 29 inches away from, or even I think it was 30 inches away from his stabby eels. So if he wanted to move and charge turn 2, it was going to be a long charge. He got the priority into turn 2 and he committed. Failed charges with the stabby eels because I was just too far away. Pumped into the Ironclad with the Turtle and Volturnus and 1 unit of Island Guard. He failed. He did some mortal wounds from the Turtle on that into the Thunderers and the Clad and the character into my Admiral. Attacked the Clad with the Turtle, and that Turtle just missed. Like it either missed or didn't wound it, and then attacked with Volturnus. But I passed my saves as well. And then I turned around and killed Volturnus in that turn, and he was my Runa Mark character, so I got my Aether Gold back. And then I literally healed as well because the Endrin Master was in base with the Clad. So the Island Guard went into the Endrin Master. He spent a CP so I could reroll 1s for saving throws. The Clad used it shared so I could reroll saves, so I didn't get fucking annihilated. Which was one of the lasting catalysts that actually saved me against Volturnus. And then when I healed back, I healed enough wounds that I was still able to fly high. And I had the after. So I used my hero phase Zilfin move as a reactionary step, not an aggressive one. Because I told him at the start I'll use my Zilfin move, hero phase, and then move, shoot, and charge. So that's why he camped turn 1. He didn't want to come out at me because if he did, I was going to shoot him behind him and start hurting all of his stabby eels. So he's sort of playing very defensive there. And then I had 2 gun haulers and 2 units of 3 wardens down the bottom left objective. And then up on sort of top right, I had my Clad and the rest of my list. Sitting there as well. But yeah, that's basically what that game came down to. It was 1 combat phase. He didn't, because I turned around in the following turn. I killed 5 of the stabby eels out of the 6-man block. I killed his Turtle because I pumped it full of mortal wounds and then killed it with the Admiral. And then I went across and started. Bottom at start of turn 4, all he had left was 2 units of 3 stabby eels and a shark, and that was it. Because all I did try and do is lure him away, because I just find when you play against Idoneth, if they don't put the pressure on you turn 2, the Idoneth player usually is not in a good spot, especially if they don't have lots of sharks and turtles to shoot. So
you said that turn 1 you basically stayed put.
I didn't stay put. I got him.
No, he stayed put.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, because the way you describe the game, I feel like if your opponent would have been able to, be more aggressive turn one, and you said that he didn't want the ships to drop in his territory,
Yep.
but if you would have left like 3 Echelon guards deep or back, actually,
Yep.
that could have been prevented. And by moving his army, forward.
Well, he's only got 9 Echelon guard. That was one of the things I told him about. I said when I was speaking to Luke, I was like, I think
Still.
you need more Echelon guard, because even though, like, he could push out, he could move across, but then I do the opposite and I bunker down and just keep shooting. So, like, if he moves out a little bit further, then I just retreat back slightly. I don't mind giving him the objective, because again, I'm playing for board control. So even if his plan is to then go turn 2 and just push into my objectives and grab them, that's fine, because then my turn 2, I start wiping out half his army, because I'm going to start pushing into things. And because my army's for combat, I can do bulk mortal wounds to Echelon guard if I absolutely 100% have to.
Yeah, I just feel like if you would have been more aggressive, because I also play a lot against Deepkin, and usually when they play KO, they push forward, they cover as much board as possible. They use their Echelon guards to really, if they allow me to settle down in one spot, they put those eels to at least, well, they're gonna waste his firepower in 3 eels, and then second turn run and charge. Usually they can cover pretty much whenever they want to go. I know that this scenario, particularly because of the deep territory, comes to your advantage. But in a standard like deployment game where it's longboard edge, I feel like it's a tough matchup even if you let your opponent go first to catch up, because of those eels. If they can place those eels strategically to deny you those landing zones or to force you to shoot them. And I noticed that your opponent didn't have the Cloud of Midnight as well.
No, because he only had multi.
Yeah, which to me is a big artifact to have for
100%.
Deepkin.
I agree. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Sounds
yeah,
good.
it's just, well, in this mission, because of the way the deployment works, like if it was, you're right. If it wasn't in longboard edges, it is harder. That's why I said if I was going to play him in
Scorched Earth.
Scorched Earth, I was fucked, because I was like, I can't play against the army and the
I
mission
agree.
at the same time. But because it was total commitment, I was like, well, I can actually play to this now. So that's what happened.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree that in that case, both not having the Cloud of Midnight and the battle plan play in your favor tremendously.
Yeah, they do. 100%. I agree. That's why I was like, when I played him in total commitment, I'm like, this is a lot better.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So, yeah.
This is winnable.
Yeah. So yeah, I managed to get this down.
Playing the battle plans are good for you.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
you beat an elf. Awesome.
yeah.
job.
So, yeah. But yeah, that was game 4. 4? Yeah, 4. Yeah.
Cool.
So the other thing about the IDK is, were you sort of relieved that he didn't have, the hero to have? I mean, obviously in total commitment that you can't have reserves anyway, but like I was
The Soul Scryer.
Again, it depends. Like, even like if you have that Soul Scryer with Midnight or the or whatever with Cloud of Midnight for that matter, you've just got to, because my army plays in the combat phase as well as the shooting phase. Like, if I have to, I do delete Echelon Guard out through bulk mortal wounds. It just really comes down to placement. If you put the character out the front, obviously I'm not going to try and go there. I'll fly high somewhere else and try and ping away at afar, because KO have such good movement. If you're playing that defensively as a Idoneth Deepkin player, to the point where the Cloud of Midnight character is out of front and the army sort of behind, so you can't shoot it or whatever, it's then it's okay for me, because the game turns like I find with Idoneth, if they don't shut KO down early, it gets worse and worse and worse for them.
Yeah.
They need to shut them down early. If they don't, they're in so much fucking trouble. So if you're playing that defensively with a Cloud of Midnight character, or your army in general, because you don't want me to shoot you, then that's fine, because you're still allowing me to like, because most of those models are only on like 32s. It's pretty easy to still dodge around with a fly high to get into an angle where you don't have to cop the Cloud of Midnight to the face. So you can still fire. It might be against 2-up unrenderable eels, but it's something. And then that allows you to chip. And as long as you keep chipping away at an Idoneth army, it's harder when they have 12 Ishlaen Guard, obviously. But that's where combat comes into effect. Because if they're playing that defensively, you just fly high right next to them, push up, and then start charging all their stabby eels. So then the stabby eels don't do anything. Because me personally nowadays, I actually don't really rate stabby eels. I prefer sharks, but just for that sheer fact of just being able to stop them from doing anything. And sharks now are so fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, sharks and Ishlaen I think are better than now. I think sharks and Ishlaen are better than stabby heels for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, I told Luke too. I said I think you need to start taking sharks because I'd have to start contemplating your shooting phase too, which is not going to make me happy. But yeah, it depends on mission really more than anything, because there's ways of playing around it, and there's also ways of them upsetting you as well. But it really, because KO now have the movement to do whatever the fuck they want, it also causes Idoneth players a lot of trouble too. So, but mission for me against Idoneth is the big thing. If I like I said, if I played it in Scorched Earth, I was fucked. If I played it in Knife to the Heart, I was in a lot of trouble. But it just depends. There's a lot of varying degrees and factors for that, I find, against Idoneth players. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to go. So take care of the kids and the wife. So it's dinner time in Quebec. So thanks again for coming, Patrick. It's been a blast to talk to you. Hope to do it soon again.
Thank you very much, and
Gotcha.
Bye, Lee. Bye, Max. Bye, Kron. Take care, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Okay, so let's move on to game 5.
Yep.
Which this is the game, because you went 5-1.
Yep.
This is the game that you lost, and it is a list. This is the list that actually went on to win the tournament as well. So if you're going to lose, losing against the person that wins the tournament is the way to do it. It's also a list that's got a lot of controversy recently.
This is a nasty list. I tried this against my friends. My God, there's a lot of there's list tech in here. Just the amount of teleports this thing does, and then it shoots twice, and then they reroll once to hit, and then the Sister Slaughter. You can't keep them.
Okay,
around.
it's the Mirror Dance. Swap out the 2 Morafis, Burning Head for reroll ones, and the Bloodstalkers shoot 5 times per turn.
Yes, so Lorchen teleports Marthy forwards. Marthy only takes 3 wounds, and they swap them around. Then the shooting snakes get teleported up. They shoot twice with Marthy, and the Sister Slaughter just retreat and then pile in, because 6-inch pile in. Why not? It's Shadow Stalkers teleport everywhere. It's nasty.
So
how many turns did you play against this?
4.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's right. Deal with it.
My question is, did you know all the tricks? Because obviously people know about this now, but last weekend they didn't. So it's possibly easy for someone to go, "Oh, I know how that list works," because they just spent last week reading about it. Did you know what it was going to do?
Well, I did. The only one I didn't know about was the stats on the Khaine Shadow Stalkers. I didn't know them, but that was sort of neither here nor there. What happened in this game is I made a mistake. And it hurt my feelings because it was such a stupid fucking mistake. And I was so angry with myself when I did it too. I didn't move my Ironclad before I did Fly High. I didn't move my Ironclad and my Bubble Boys, and it really upset me because it stopped me firing my other cannons and my hooks and stuff into the Shadow Stalkers. I wouldn't have wiped them out, but it meant I wouldn't have been taking another 8 shots per shooting bit from the Seekers. So it was this game also came down to a priority too, which is one of those things. Because if I'd have won the priority roll, which I didn't going into turn 2, I could have Ironclad still would have been like fully fine. It wouldn't have been as fucked. I did cop a Marathi into the Ironclad, which hurt, but I still would have had my Clad still left alive. So it just meant there was more stuff he would have had to do to deal with the Clad and everything else. So it's another turn or another CP shooting phase or whatever to deal with it. Because in my turn 1, I killed 6 Blood Stalkers, most of his Sisters of Slaughter. I crippled a unit of the Khaine Shadow Stalkers and slightly hurt another unit of Shadow Stalkers, and that was my turn 1. So he had a terrain piece that was perfectly positioned on his board to block out like firing lines. So just where the objective was, sort of slightly to the left and in the middle, there was like this big rock piece that could just block line of sight. No, up near the objective, but sort of in your deployment zone, like to the left, like right there, sort of, yeah, like right, yeah. But it just goes across towards the board edge, and I was like, sweet, yeah. So that kind of sucked. But everything else, I like. Even going into turn 2 and then into turn 3, I still had a big chance because for some reason he wasn't putting models around the objective. And so I was like, there was still a way for me to actually win the game. And even in turn 4, I was like, it's a big thing. I only had 2 gun haulers left turn 4, but I was like, if I kill those Sisters of Slaughter this turn and then I go into a double, I said I can still win this. I killed the Sisters. Went for the priority and failed again, and I was like, "Fuck!" So I didn't get a single priority roll the whole game, because he only had, I think, like 4 or 5 of the bow sisters near the objective, and I was like, "Cool, I'll rock up, I'll shoot them, I'll charge them, and if I can do enough damage there's a chance for me to at least win that game." But it didn't happen, and I was like, "Fuck!" So that was it. But I mean, as far as things go. Like, it just. I mean,
that whole army is neg 1 to hit in shooting as well. It's
it is. So like using the Grundstock escort wing to be able to pick the proper targets too is very helpful. So at least I get reroll 1s there. And most of the time when I had my Aether Gold, I was using it for like reroll hits, so I could just like literally shoot stuff. But my most of that damage I did turn 1 with, believe it or not, was in combat. Against the Sisters. So because everything was missing, nothing was hitting, and it was a little upsetting. But anyway,
did you manage to kill Morathi?
I got it down to 3 wounds. So I only got it down to 3 wounds, but all he had left at that turn was Marathi, his Medusa, and 6 bow sisters and 1 unit of 4 shadow stalkers. After turn 1 they teleported into the corner, so I didn't worry about it, because then after turn 2 they teleported onto my objective. They did turn 2, and then I came in and killed them. So I got my objective back, so I didn't lose turn 3. But yeah, it was a close game. So even till turn 4, I was still in with a shot, even if it was ridiculously not my favorite. There was still a chance. So, but oh well. What it is?
Sounds almost like they made their moves a bit too early, because it gave you a chance to recover before the win criteria come into effect.
Yeah. Well, it did, but like because my gun haulers were still fairly close to my Skywarden shooting units were still fairly close to my objective. So all it took for me was to just literally turbo boost back to that objective and then charge and kill the Shadow Stalkers that were there. But that was the game. So like I said to Corey during that game as well, I said, look, this is probably going to come down to a priority roll. And he's like, yeah. And he won it, and I was like, fuck.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this knife to the heart
I'm not either. I really fucking hate the mission, because it's not really a mission to play, if that makes sense. Your army's either super strong and you can just bowl over your opponent, or you're busy trying to play the gotcha, where you're just like, oh, got your objective, gotcha, I win.
Yeah.
I played this against the Shootcast 1-drop, and it was, as you said, who gets priority from 1 to 2. I said, I won it. Okay, I move a gun hauler onto your objective. I won. Game over.
Yeah. Well,
after like 50 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just,
exactly.
It's a stupid game.
Because then I would have got 2 Skywarden units and all 3 of my gun haulers. I would have charged into his block of bow sisters and just deleted what was left, because there was only like 12 left at that stage. So that, I didn't get the priority, so it didn't happen.
So, and what did you do with the big Morathi? Did you like ignore her or throw her something to slow her down? Like ignore on this gun hauler and for 2 turns, or?
No. Well, I can't really. All you can do is with Morathi is just chip her. Like, I can't really, because she does so much damage. You can't really afford to feed her anything, because she just does. Even when she doesn't bracket well, it's not like you do 3 wounds to her and then she brackets. It's like 3 wounds and then the next turn she'll bracket, because even then it doesn't bracket that well. So like even Morathi at her lowest still pumps out, I think, like 5 or 4 attacks at 3s and 3s at -2 for 3. So like that's her at her lowest when she's at her weakest, and she still carves people up. So like the best you can do is just keep chipping and try and make sure that Morathi only engages 1 target at a time. So you're trying to reduce her, and then like, because we're KO and we can shoot, we are lucky in that aspect, but we don't have large mobs of units. Like, we're not like goblins or anything where you can just throw one of those and then she'll have to deal with that for 2 or 3 turns. It's like she's a really good counter to a lot of our stuff, because she only chips.
Yeah, I mean, what you want is a navigator to have half her move.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's the only sort of aspect you can do to deal with Morathi.
Yeah,
because...
like Archaon. Either you delete him or you just slow him down and kite him.
Yeah.
Morathi is just do minimum. You just need to put that minimum damage on.
Yeah.
You can shoot the big one, because if you shoot the small one, she gets lookout, sir, but the big one doesn't, I guess.
Well,
she's a monster, and she's a flyer. So shoot a couple of shots in the big one. And then
I'd say just throw a gun hauler at the big one every turn. Like, just shoot 1 gun hauler at the big one. Should be enough.
Yeah. Well, the little ones under Calibron's -3 to hit.
Yeah. Okay.
Lookout, sir, and
that's without lookout, sir. She's -1 to hit stock, and then she's got Calibron, so she's -2, and then when she's got lookout. Oh, hang on. No, sorry, you're right. -3. Yeah, my bad. -3. Yep, -1, -2. Yep.
Look out, sir, and then you can't hit her. You just can't.
No, you can't. You have to shoot the big one.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens with Doc under the new battle tome.
Yep.
Because that list to me isn't long for this world.
Yeah, I think the Shadow Stalkers, they are super good for what they do. 100 points, 12 wounds, teleport every turn. They're not.
It's from what I've heard, Calibron's changing quite a bit from what I've heard.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I reckon battle tome will change massively. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've never seen Daughters of Khaine as this army that can take a lot of damage. I've always seen it as this army that can dish a lot of damage, like a glass cannon, like Slaanesh.
Classic glass cannon. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that when you have things like Hagnar and stuff and big box of daughters running up the board, it never felt very daughtery of Khaine to me. So we'll see what happens with them.
No, well, in the game, the naked people are always the most resilient.
Yep.
Fire Slayers, daughters.
Fire Slayers, daughters. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Well, not the same.
Yeah, that was against Corey. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I bet the scenario is just. I mean, it could have been in your favor because you could have, like, with 2 gunners, still won it. But on your way, I'm not a big fan of this scenario in tournaments, to be honest.
I mean, most people aren't, but the guy, someone who's running the event, is like, "Nah, it's perfect. It it really breaks up the pack." And I was like, "You're a cunt." So,
all right. Well, did you know the battle plans before the tournament?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he released all 5 missions before in the players pack, so it was all there.
Okay. Before list submission.
Yeah, before the submission. Before the submission. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Right, let's move on to the last game then, which was against Slaanesh. So it's essentially all the chariots, basically.
Yeah, max chariots, man.
As many chariots as you can squeeze in a Godseekers, hopefully. So, I mean, did you have any thoughts of that? You know, when you saw the list and you knew what you were playing against?
Less bodies than you brought.
yeah, it was less models than I brought.
9 units.
Yep.
9 models.
Slaanesh always struggle against KO, just because, especially now, just because obviously you've got a lot of non-interactive ways of just hurting Slaanesh with shooting and stuff, and they just don't really have any counters for it. If it comes down to a double turn, like if you're KO and you're playing at the bottom and you get a double turn against them, you'll ruin them. They can't afford to take any of it. So as soon as it just comes down to that. Most of the time, it's a pretty easy matchup. This game was a lot harder than it absolutely had to be because my turn 1 shooting was so bad. I think I only killed like 2 chariots with all of my shooting. So then I had to do combat, and then I managed to kill the other 2 chariots. So like, sort of like bottom left-hand side, I managed to at least.
So what were your main targets? Like the normal chariots, or did you go for heroes?
It's literally creating board space. So like you just pick like a section of the board and then you clear that section out. So like I aimed for like the bottom left because he made his priority objective. If you're looking at it on the screen, the blue bottom left-hand one, because he was the blue and I was the red essentially. He picked that as his main objective, so that's obviously the one I went for. I can't play to all objectives, so I don't. I'm just trying to create board space and table space so I don't get charged by chariots. So that's literally the whole entire goal. He had a fair few chariots down there. I took the bottom 2 objectives, so I managed to get 4 points, but I didn't kill enough because my shooting phase did fucking nothing almost, that I still got charged by a chariot. A couple of chariots, but the thing that brought me back was then he rolled his impacts and rolled a fuck ton of 1s. Like an absolute shit ton of 1s, and that was literally what brought me back. I was like, fuck, man, if I lose against Slaanesh with KO, I'm never hear the end of it. So when he did his impacts into me, he rolled a fuck ton of 1s and didn't do enough. I did my bombing runs and off the Ironclad managed to kill a really hurt chariot, and then in the following combat phase, I killed the character chariot. Then I got my turn. I killed some more. I killed the keeper. I killed some demonettes, and then we rolled into a priority, and I won it into turn 2 into turn 3 double.
Yeah, deadly.
He only had 2 chariots left at the end of that stage, so that was the game.
Did he summon anything?
Yeah, 20 demonettes.
Okay.
They each summoned 20 demonettes to charge my gun haulers, sort of down to the bottom central objective, and he managed to kill the gun hauler, but then I turned around and crippled the demonette unit. So between bombing, because they're just 5-up saves with nothing, so I just tacked them back and did a fair bit of damage. So yeah. And that's basically the game. He was running around trying to capture objectives early, and I was just trying to shoot him.
Okay.
So that was it.
Okay, so
Cool.
that one was relatively.
And you came second overall, which yeah.
Yeah, well,
Congrats.
Even in the games, when I lost against Corey, I was still getting my secondaries. So when we did the tournament, obviously we had the main force objective, but then we use what do they call them?
Auxiliaries.
The auxiliaries as like secondary objectives to try and get. So even when I played against Corey and lost, I still managed to get my auxiliaries. So that was pretty good. So that added up to my total score. So yeah. So that was.
Did you get them in pretty much all of your games, or?
Sorry?
Did you manage to get them in pretty much all of the games?
One I didn't manage to, but that's because of the army and the actual auxiliary. I got the mass panic one, and that was against the Feck.
Right.
Oh, yeah, which you're not really gonna do against death.
Yeah, bravery 10.
Bravery 10, and they're like 5-man units. It's like, or 6-man units. It's like, it's pretty fucking impossible to do.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and that was it. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I get the impression for like most of your games, like I think you sort of said it in this last game, like articulated the best way, where you carve out an area of space.
Yeah.
That's yours, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah.
How do you think you would have fared if you come up against more teleporting?
Well, again, depends what kind of teleporting and how. Because if it teleports, then I take the first turn. Because it was exactly what I did against Corey. I just when he had a lot of teleporting, I was still able to shut out most of it from like actually being able to be used efficiently. So I like when someone has that much teleporting, and it depends on the list. Like there's a lot of circumstances that go into that. So like if their army is lots of teleporting, but it's all combat and there's no way to reroll charges and stuff, you don't really mind so much because you still get to. You're not being pressured from the teleporting, if that makes sense. And you're still relying at the bottom of turn to, you still got the chance for the double and everything else. So there's that option there as well. But it literally depends. If it's playing against something like Seraphon, with their teleporting with skinks and stuff, it's not easy because you've still got to be able to, like, you can put the damage on, but it's whether or not you can deal with the threats you need to deal with and still have enough to play to objectives is the problem, because Seraphon do so many mortal wounds. But that's just it like mission makes up so much of that as well. So like you got to know like what when in the mission that you're playing in, how to best sort of reduce all that shit that can come at you. But like there's a lot of things that can go into just like teleporting. Like if it can beat you or what can it do? It's just like it just depends on a lot of other aspects as well when you're playing, I find. So
yeah.
So after your experience at this tournament, is there anything you'd want to change in your list?
Not really, but I mean I've got lots of other KO lists I want to play as well. So like I've got the standard 20 Thunderers on foot with max specials, except for in that list I take a Soul Scream Bridge Chemist rather than Thingo, so I don't have to pay another 480 points to get him around the board, because that army plays a bit differently. But that army's more designed to play against armies that are fast and hard hitting, because obviously you walk into the fucking 20-man block, it's got rerollable saves, it's -2 to hit in combat, etc., etc. But it just I've got multiple different lists, even things like just mass Arcanauts inside frigates. For the Ironside Attack Squadron.
Oh, yeah. Lee loves you. Lee's gonna love you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got that list as well that I want to try out as well. And they're all under different ports as well. So
okay.
But yeah, I just like that list did what I needed it to do, and then they'll every other list. It just like I said, it just depends on matchup and mission sometimes on what you play and how when you play it. So yeah.
So the other lists that you want to try out, are you thinking of those being more just for one list, or something that you'll try out competitively?
It can change based on the meta. So as you might be well aware, Australia is well known for its like fucked meta where everything's all over the place and no one's doing what you want them to do. But it literally depends on meta. Like if everything's still going mass shooting, you're not going to take the 20 Thunderers on foot with chemists because you're just going to lose your chemists and your effectiveness and all that sort of stuff. And it's going to be a lot of points for not a lot. So
it's not doing anything. So
no, that's right. So it depends on the meta that everyone's playing in. If everyone just keeps going like shooting, then you stick with old and reliable. But if everyone switches to other stuff, which I dare say will happen, because even though some armies aren't that great or whatever, people will pick them just because they like them. And I dare say, even in Queensland and Australia, where I am, I know a lot of players who have Slaanesh armies, so I'm not going to be surprised when the Slaanesh book drops that everyone just jumps on that wagon. So then I might be overrun with Slaanesh armies, which in that case I'll probably end up going playing the Thunderer block. So it just depends on that stuff. So yeah. Yeah.
All right. So any tournaments planned for the future?
Well, we've got Brishammer.
Brishammer?
Yeah, Brishammer's on.
All right.
We got 4 tournaments in Queensland, at least. Plus, it looks like we're actually
world where there's less COVID.
Well, we didn't think there was going to be that much after Goldcon, but the Brishammer boys have put up their hand and they're running 4 Brishammer events, but they're only semi-small, so they're only going to be about 32 players or something like that.
Oh yeah. Are they 1 days or 2 days?
2 days.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we've also got Toowoomba Open as well. The guys from the Foul Charge podcast, they always do good events, and they're going to run another one as well. So we've got that event that's coming up as well. Then we've got Gabe's Runax team event.
Yeah. Okay. Stop.
I'm gonna have to.
I can't play a game for half a year, and he's going to 5 tournaments in a row.
Yeah, I might have to go to some of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we've got a few events coming up, so that's pretty good.
No, we won't have any tournaments until summer, minimum.
And when's summer?
Summer is in June, July, when summer is supposed to be.
That's not summer. That's winter.
I don't know when you're upside down world has summer, but summer months are June, July.
We're in summer right now. It's like it gets to 40 degrees out there.
We just had the winter FAQ.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they said winter FAQ, I was like, that's not winter. You guys are lying.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But okay, so thank you very much for coming on, Pat.
Hopefully, our viewers got some cool tips from that, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I like the idea of the massed mortal wound output from boats. Just, I'll try the Brock Gnar list tomorrow that we talked about with Kyle. Just in a TTS game. Just alpha charge. Everyone does mortal wounds with cogs. But I think it's a nice touch. Mataram with Skyhook. Yeah.
With snow.
Yeah. We had a lot of snow here as well last week.
I read a paper, like a newspaper line that was just a dude got arrested because he used a flamethrower to clear the snow out of his driveway, and he was caught yelling and screaming, going, "I'm sick and tired of all this white bullshit." Flamethrower to clean out his thing. It was in Canada, and I was like, "That is just the best thing ever." I picture that's what it's like, because when I see snow, I get really, really excited about it, because I'm like, "Oh, this is fucking something I've never seen before." But I suppose if you were there living it all the time, you'd fucking get over it pretty quickly.
Oh yeah.
The snow is nice. The annoying thing is getting around in your car because everything's blocked, and parking spaces are cramped because they moved the snow on the side of the road, so you can't park there anymore. And then the most annoying thing is when it starts melting and you have this wet snow water mix. Oh, I hate it. It's everywhere.
Mass sludge.
Yeah, it's like a sludge stuff, and then it in the night it freezes and it's all ice, and you trip and fall, and yeah. But when it's fresh snow and it's cold, and for skiing,
just Europe problems.
Yeah,
it's like northern problems. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, Adeptus is gone now, so he would be able to.
People laughing at us. Yeah, he lives in an igloo.
Yeah. Minus degrees. That's warm, isn't it? Something like that.
But I'd imagine it's different there because they're prepared for it. But when it happens in England, it's like the world's just ended. Which, I mean, I know the world didn't last year anyway. But it's just like everything just goes nuts because we're not prepared for it.
Well, last time I went to England, I was over there in the summer, And then everybody was losing their minds because the sun was out. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
But that's the thing with British. Like when the sun comes out, it doesn't matter the temperature. When the sun comes out,
yeah,
it's shorts.
everybody is in the
Because
park.
the sun is out, it's shorts. It's -10. It doesn't matter. The sun is out. They need to wear shorts. That's your Brits.
Yeah. And then we complain about the heat when it's like 25 degrees. But
Yeah, then you get sunburned. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we covered everything. I don't think I've got any more questions for Pat. Have you guys?
No.
No.
We'll hope to have you back after the next tournament win.
Yes. If you go and do well at another tournament, or if there's something you want to come on and chat to us about, then would be good to have you on again. In terms of the next show, I think possibly that's going to be on custom skyports.
Jazz Baz, get excited.
One thing I want to call out, if you are interested in sort of how the Duardin races interact with each other, then go check out 2+ Tough Doug, because he did a video about how they all see each other recently, which is pretty cool. Probably makes it sound like they wouldn't get. So, but I found it good. So yeah, go check that out. If you like the show, please hit like. Make sure you hit subscribe as well. Hit that bell icon so you get notified of videos. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, everyone, and thank you, Pat, Max, Kron, and Adeptus for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Cheers, everyone.
All right.